Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
And my name is Tylor. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
And sharing them with you. Now this is a very special time of the year because it is the time of the year that we share the best games of the previous year, which is 2023.
Yes. Lists, and more lists.
We played a ton of games in 2023. It was a really good year for gaming. There was some really hot titles that made this process extremely difficult.
Yeah, I think to put it into perspective, we played 130 2023 games, I think it was.
I think it was more.
It might have been more than that.
Yeah.
But this is our top 10 2023 games.
So there's over 100 games that didn't make this list that were released in the video.
Yeah.
But most of them were still good games.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Most of them. Now the way that we'll do this is we will start with honorable mentions because we have to sprinkle a little bit in there.
Yes.
Then we'll go from 10 all the way to 1. If any of the titles repeat, we'll talk about them when they're higher. So if they're higher on my list than Tyler's list, we'll talk about them when it comes to my turn.
Yeah.
That way we can both chat about them without spoiling each other's lists and making a lot of fun.
Yeah, because this year we shared each other's lists in the past, what we've done is we've come with a list and then surprised each other. But we're sharing our lists for the simple fact of potential repeats.
The surprise here was off camera. But we were still surprised.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Well, you know what? Let's start off with our honorable mentions. I can go first.
You sure can.
So I have 3. I'll quickly rapid fire talk through them because, they're fun and they're great games. First one is The Number. So I feel the reason I wanted to talk about this game is I feel like it has not gotten nearly enough attention for how fun it is.
It's a good game.
It is a 3 to 5 player game where essentially all you're doing is you're writing a 3-digit number. But the catch is if any of your digits, any of the values of them are the same as anybody else's, they get canceled out. But the ones that don't, you'll score points. And the numbers you use, you can't use again. So that makes it even more tricky as the game progresses. It's a lot of fun, it plays really quick, and it's a joy. And that's an honorable mention for me. Another one is Disney Villains, the card game.
Yes.
Now, this one we played so many times in 2023.
Very much surprised.
And usually with card games like this, I feel like we play them a couple of times, like it's fun, and then we kind of move past them. But this one we kept coming back to because of the sheer simplicity, but also the replayability of it. You essentially just play numbers. You have to match either color or number that you have. But if you match either of the people sitting next to you, you have to give them your card instead. Yes. So it's like a
forced play.
Yeah, it's a tricky decision making from that perspective. There's also some fun thematic abilities for each of the villains, but it's a joy to play. Yeah. And my last one is Dragones del Mar.
Dragones del Mar.
Or Sea Dragon. So this is the one we covered for Polyomino Month. It's a newer game that I don't actually think is actually released in North America yet.
Oh.
So hence this is why it's an honorable mention. But it's so much fun. You're placing these little dragon pieces. You're trying to do opposite of most Polyomino games where you're trying to not place adjacent to your own pieces. In fact, you can't. But the scoring of it is really cool. The way you get points, the way you fulfill contracts. It has so many things that are just... I love to see in games, but in not an overly complex or overly abundant type of way. So that's Sea Dragons.
Yay, Sea Dragons.
That was my rapid fire honorable mentions. How did you think I did?
You did good. Your games are a lot smaller than mine, so I might take a quicker time.
A longer
moment to explain them. But I will start with one of the easy ones, and that is...
A black binder.
A black binder. That says fun. You can't see it here, I'm assuming, but it says fun guys and has a picture of a mushroom holding a shield. Anyways, if you hadn't already guessed, I put this in my honorable mention because I don't know if it actually fits into the board game space because it is a trading card game. That is Lorcana. As you can see, I quite enjoyed our collection. And I've enjoyed collecting. So it's been a lot of fun to kind of dive back into the TCG world. All the foils that we have, which is very exciting. All the foils that we're missing, who knows. But anyways, my point is that this game has been a lot of fun for me to play, for us to both play. And I think it just deserved a bit of a mention because, yeah, it's been like on our radars and something that I'm like constantly like, Ilya, let's play another round. Let's do this. Let's do
Tylor
that.
recently won a draft at our local game store.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
He came in first.
That's
which was
what
very
that is what winning means.
I did not win the draft. I did not even place, sadly. But Tylor did. He did very good.
And then the next game that I want to talk about is very close to my life, I guess you could say. Hegemony, lead your class to victories. And the reason I say it's very close to my life is because I have a degree in math and economics, and this is all about well, it really is about the economics of the world, and or at least of a capitalist type world where there's where there's a bunch of different classes that you're going to be playing as, 4 specifically, and they work really well. It was actually developed by an individual, or developed by several individuals that have like their PhD in economics, and they did a really good job at making those connections. I'm not saying that you have to know all of this stuff to be able to play this game, but that out of the way, it is a beast of a game, and it takes a while to play. From what I've heard, you don't really want to play this game at less than 4 players just because it's more optimized for that situation. I'll have to give that a go, but we've really only been able to lean into this game once. And that's why it's on my honorable mention, because I don't have enough information about the actual gameplay to make any other decisions outside of that.
I think if we played it more than once, it would have been on my list as well.
Yeah. And that's Hegemony. Similar vein.
This one was also really close to making my list.
Similar vein, a game that I kickstarted a while back, Darwin's Journey. We've been meaning to play this game, and we played it in December. I really, really liked this game. I'm not often one to like sit down and teach a game, but this was one that I did. I was very excited about it. It takes a little bit to get into, but it is very neat. You're basically like helping Darwin through his journey and making sure that you can collect all the species and everything like that. And the multitudes of the things that you can do in this game is very interesting, so I'm excited to like dive a bit more into it. But like Hegemony, we've only been able to play this game really one time, and I'd like to be able to play it more before I give it a thought of whether or not it's like top 10 worthy kind of thing.
I also really like Darwin's Journey. It was a lot of fun to play. I was losing by a ton of points, and I made a miraculous comeback and won.
Yes, there's a lot of ways
fun.
to collect points in this game,
is.
which is very exciting because you can go a lot of different strategy routes. So
I can't wait to play this one more.
Darwin's Journey. And that's my honorable mentions.
Is that your journey?
That is the journey of my honorables. Okie dokie. Now we're into the top 10. Starting with my number 10.
Which is?
Very surprising to me. Just kidding. I think it's very deserving. I will say that like in most of my lists, 8 to I want to say like 14 or 15 are always very, very close in which order they need to be in, but this one snuck in at number 10, and that is Junk Drawer. This polyomino simultaneous game is so much fun to play, and the replayability of this game is so much fun. I think it's the ease of getting into it that makes it very interesting. And then also the fact that everybody starts off in the same boat. You have all the same tiles, and you're flipping cards, and you're deciding how to place them. It's as simple as that. The complexities get involved when you want to decide how you want to place them, where you should place them, and of course like the limitations that end up arising between the 4 items that you are ending up flipping over, because they have to go into a new spot that you haven't placed in during that like full round. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun to play. It's very quick, and I think it's super fun.
We've played this game and shown it to so many different people, and I think the part that I like the most about it is there's really easy objectives.
Yeah.
Where like you'll be successful, and even if all of you are successful and get the same amount of points, it still feels good. Because I think and that in games is really fun and makes this game extremely approachable. Like, we showed it to my family, and they were like, again,
Yes.
we're going to play this game more and more. And it was just a joy to get to the table.
And it is cool because the points system seems to make it so that the game is very, very close, because you are all working towards the same goals. It's essentially like you missed one or two, and the difference is very, very, it's unfortunate, and I think that's what's cool, because it makes you want to play the game again, but it's like unplanned optimization in a sense, because you can never know what tile is going to come next.
And it scales up. Infinite player count.
That's true. That is junk drawer.
Junk drawer. So we're going to skip over my number 10 because it's higher and go straight into my number 9.
Ooh.
And my number 9 is The Search for Lost Species. So I loved The Search for Planet X.
Yes, it was great.
I think I just really like logic puzzles and deduction and those, not necessarily even deduction, more of like logic rules and those types of games. Yeah. And I feel like there's not a ton of games that really like focus in a lot of that. So when I was introduced to Search for Planet X, I really liked it. But when I knew there was going to be an animal-themed one where you're just going around an island, well, I was sold, and I played it, and I loved it. Yeah. It's very similar to the original, but the rules are just so clever of just knowing, trying to figure out information before anybody else, taking calculated guesses, knowing that this species has to be in a certain formation, and you come across one of them. How does the formation look? Which way does it float? It's also just, I feel like playing these types of games just makes me really happy because everyone's just kind of hiding behind their own little thing. And they're looking up every now and then to try to get information from other people. Yeah. And you're all doing it collectively and you're obviously still competing. But it's so cool to see like, aha, I figured it out. And someone's just like viciously crossing things off, circling things. And you're like, did they figure it out? I don't have that information. What do they have? So it's a really interesting game. It's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to play more of it.
Yeah, of course with this game, and the same thing can be said with Search for Planet X, I love the timing of the game because it feels like it's a race. But you don't have to find the Lost Species or Planet X first to actually win the game. There are times where you can be the quickest, but you will not win the game because of maybe the guesses you made for the areas that you're trying to find, or specific bonuses that you end up getting. In particular to the Lost Species, they've got like ways to score extra points, which is very neat. It helps you like mitigate that gap and potentially win from not being the fastest, so that's a lot of fun. It also puts less pressure on individuals who might take a little bit more time to figure a puzzle out to the exact like key. You don't need to do that. You can win without knowing where the Lost Species is, kind of thing. True. It definitely does help, but you're not weighed down by the fact that you need to find the Lost Species.
I found it first and lost, but I still loved it, and that is The Search for Lost Species.
All right, on to my number 9, which is a roll and write called Motor City. This game, like all the games that come from the loaded roll and write series, is a crunchy roll and write with a lot of combos. And you're essentially manufacturing cars, you're testing them, you're selling them, you're building them, and it's just a lot of fun to see the combos happen. The way that you can like progress through whatever chain that you choose to go through, while like being limited by the draft that's put in front of you, I think is a lot of interesting. There's a lot of interesting decisions that could be made there. And because of the crunchiness, you would be a little hesitant to say, okay, well, like, is it hard to follow? But I think like with this one in particular, it feels very like linear in the way that you do things. You grab something, you scratch it off. If you cover something, you scratch it off. If you cover another thing, you scratch it off. So it's like very linear in the paths that you need to follow, and I really appreciated that, especially when it comes to the key decisions that come with the game, and for that reason, I put it at 9.
I was shocked this game didn't make my list because I absolutely adore this series of games. But I think that just proves to show how many fantastic games were released this year. But I will say I adore this game wholeheartedly. I think the Loaded Roll and Write series is just fantastic. The Fleet, Three Sisters, upcoming French Quarter. And this one was really neat. I really would love to play it more, and it is still one of my favorites.
Yeah. I will say that this one definitely grew on me in comparison to the others. I like all 3 of the ones that are out right now, but this one was, at first I was like, okay, let's play the other ones. But then I started playing it more and more, and I was like, oh, okay, let's play this one again. And I think that's why that was like the turning point for like here now it needs to be in my top 10 kind of
Would you say it's the most complex of the three?
It's hard to say. I don't think so, actually.
No,
I think it's the easiest, the most linear to follow.
Really?
Yeah, I think I think it's actually the easiest to follow.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's not complex. It could be more complex, but they've just done a good job at like cleaning up the like flow.
That's fair.
Yeah. Anyways, that's Motor City.
Now my number 8 is Mille Fiori. Now this one I think was released in January of 2023, so it almost didn't make the cutoff.
Almost made it.
And I adore this game. So the premise of this game is essentially you're drafting cards and you're playing them, and based on where you play the card, you'll play your fun little diamond into the game board in the middle of the table. And each of the sections scores differently. Sometimes if they're adjacent chunk, sometimes just the points for the next one, sometimes you're trying to build a pyramid, sometimes you're setting off ships. So the simplicity of the game is there's a simplicity in the rule set that makes it really easy to follow, but the complexity is in the decision making of what are you going to draft and what is everyone else drafting and how do I potentially stop them from scoring more points. It's so much fun to play. And I just adore the experience behind it. I think also the tactile feel of the pieces and the beautiful presentation of the box and the grid is just fantastic game. It's going to be one that hits our tables again and again, just for the sheer simplicity of how gorgeous and approachable it is to really anybody.
Yeah, the points are also very high and it's very satisfying because it's like it is immediate scoring, so you get to move your pieces up. Don't be daunted by opportunities where like you may be like very, very behind because it's easy to be able to
couple of bonuses.
Yeah.
Done.
Catch right back up.
Catch back right up.
Yeah.
Catch back right up.
Catch right back up.
In Mille Fiori.
All right, we're on to my number 8, which is actually your number 7.
It is.
So we can talk about it at the exact same time. And that is Bamboo. Bamboo, bamboo, bamboo. This is cute. I want to say deceivingly heavy. If you look at this box and even just the size of it, you're like, okay, well, it might not be as heavy as it looks, but it is a heavy game, so forewarned. But basically in this game is you're building up your like family renown and trying to, well, impress everybody essentially. And the cool thing is like you are pushing up little bamboo sticks. Like I can't even begin to say how cool this is. And maybe this is part of it, but the tactile feel of pushing up your bamboo shoots so that you can take actions based on that is so interesting to me. There's a lot of different like windows of opportunities to score different points, but you really want to be paying attention to how and what you're doing because at the end of the day, you want to have great balance in your family life. And that just brings me to the other family part is they've included a diverse group of families that you can tag along with. And I love that in games. But yeah, there's just a lot going on in this game. Clearly my hands are very excited to talk about it.
I think what I'll add is I loved the presentation of this game. I think everything just feels right and correct, and it flows kind of to your earlier point of like linearity. Like it does make sense of what you need to do, where you need to go, the process that you need to follow. The game board begins to just light up as the more pieces that become on it from the different even incense sticks and everything else. But the theme is really what it is too, is like you're all trying to be the happiest.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the most happiness points. And you're just working towards building your family's happiness through the various means, through balancing various aspects. And it's very wholesome in a way, which I really like. But I thought this game would be a little bit lower on my list compared to some other ones, but coming back and reflecting over all the feelings and the gameplays that we've had of it, it's just fantastic, and I'm really happy to see it as my number 7.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I like playing it, and now I want to play it again.
That's how I feel about all of our games that we talk about in our top 10.
That is true. That's Bamboo. Let's move on to the next game.
So the next one is my number 10 and your number 7. So we're at the 7s now, and that is White Castle, which is
where? Oh.
behind us.
Aha! Another Devere game. Here we go, Devere.
So the way that this game will work is essentially it's a dice placement game where you'll choose one of the dice on the bridge and place them in one of the different areas. Now, what's really neat about this game is that throughout the whole game, you only have 9 turns.
Yeah.
Now, and one of those 9 turns could be as simple as collecting 2 resources.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really banking on setting yourself up for a larger combination to score yourself the most amount of points. You'll have various workers that go into different areas. You'll be managing control of building up your own player board so you get more points from certain actions. And most of all, just try and pay attention to what everybody else is doing too, because it is a really dynamic type of flowing game. Mm-hmm. There's just so much to love about White Castle. What do you think?
I agree. This is on my 7. It's your 10. So like,
10.
I'm actually kind of surprised it's as low as it is for you. But
Me too.
Then again, like we said, lots of games this year, a lot to choose from. This one in particular, I will echo what Ilya said in the swing of turns, because one turn can be like 30. It'll feel like 30 seconds. And then the next turn, you'll be like, oh, I go here, then 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 I go here. And it's just like this cool little chain reaction that slowly starts to build. I love the fact that there are different types of workers and you can kind of lean specifically into one maybe. I love the modularity of the game where it's constantly changing, even just in the way that or the restrictions of the dice that are able to be placed in certain spots. And then of course that little piece of like engine building that happens in your own board, which really like pushes you to decide whether or not you take a low die or you take a high die. And also like the payment of this system is like you always get the difference, or you always have to pay the difference of the dice spot that you're covering. So there's a lot of intricate things that go on in this game, but kind of like the pattern that we've really been like sticking to for this top 10, it feels, is like the linearity of it just feels kind of right, because you know, like you do one action and then it'll lead to this. I will say that this is definitely on the heavier side, so drawing those lines can and will be quite difficult when you first start playing it, but once you understand the flow, what you need to be doing, it will seem easier, but that still doesn't take away from like the strategic decisions and your optimal like path forward that you may want to like stop, pause for a minute, and think about where it could lead you next.
I think it also leads you coming back to the game, because I think you'll notice, be like, oh, I should have done this, because that would have actually resulted in a better conversion here, and I could have done this. So, and I feel like every game I still see that, so it leaves me coming back and seeing it. This is also a spiritual successor of Red Cathedral. They both have kind of that dice element as a core mechanic, which I really like, because they're vastly different games. Yes. But you can see the small line of connection. But to your point earlier too, is I am surprised this is as low as 10 for me, because if you would have asked me before making my list, it would have been top 5 easy. Yeah. So interesting day today, I guess.
This just comes back to the fact that, well, first of all, I didn't realize how many new games we played this year.
There's a lot of games we played.
We
White Castle.
We got there, and White Castle is the game we're talking about
now. Okay, time for my number 6.
Your number 6.
So I think I cheated a little bit, because I think this one is technically about to be fulfilled, but I thought it was already out. So it just snuck on my list, and you know what? We're not going to redo my list. It's happy where it is.
It's happy where it is.
So the game that is Shipwrights of the North Sea Redux. So this is a Redux, completely different version of Shipwrights of the North Sea that Garfield Games has put out this year, or last year, I guess. Yeah. But where do I even start? I think this is one of those games that I just immediately fell in love with. I think a lot of the recent Garfield game releases have been way more on the heavier side. And I think they're games that we can't necessarily introduce to people right off the bat. Where this one is that.
It does feel a lot
You can introduce this game, I think, easier, and there's just so much I love about it.
I will just pause and say that it doesn't mean that it should be introduced.
True.
It just means it's easier to introduce than the other games. So I would toss it in like an architect's level of introduction.
I agree. So essentially, this is a resource management game in which you're building ships, you're getting characters, you're building up your little town. You have your own little board. It's a lot of done through cards and resources. And it just feels fantastic to play.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game you can easily come back to. It doesn't play overly long. It's about an hour-ish game. I think 60 minutes is what the box says.
Yeah.
And it can play up to 5 players.
Mm-hmm.
So I am so happy because we got introduced to Garfield games when the West Kingdom was coming out initially.
Almost just finished.
Yeah, I think Paladins just came out, and then Viscounts hasn't come out, is when we initially got started with Garfield games. So revisiting the North Sea was, like, we played Raiders, but we actually haven't played too much of Shipwrights, and we still haven't played Explorers, which we really need to. So coming back to this and playing Shipwrights was just fantastic.
I feel like this is redone, too.
It is, and it's like a wholesome circle universe aspect, but I love this game. I can't wait to play it more. I'm very happy with it.
Yes. Yeah, I will say, like, it's the classic. There's a lot of points that you can gather in this game. There's a lot of different ways you can gather things in this game. And then you just want to make sure, particularly when you're playing this game, there's definitely a learning curve, and you can see yourself get better and better as you play through it.
That's very true.
Which is always nice.
Yay, learning.
On to my number 6, which is from Inside Up Games, and it's this little one called Earth.
Just a casual little one.
Just little, you know. So in this game, basically, you're going to be picking from like 4 different actions. And the cool thing about this game, and one of the highlights for me in this game, is you, as a primary, as the player that's taking their action, picks one, and then everybody else will also do something. Yes. Then you get to activate the ability cards that are of that color. You're building out this grid, which is basically like you're forming up your Earth, and you have a bunch of different, like, I want to say it's flora, fauna, like trees and stuff like that, but you're building it all out, and you are trying to place them in this like 4x4 grid that is just like strategic in a way that combos off very, very well. It's not always going to work out, but the fact that you start from top left and then go back down to the right or bottom right, and you're activating all of the cards as you go, it progressively gets more and more intense, the abilities that you're able to activate. And then there's a bunch of different ways that you can score points throughout this game. There are like goals that you're racing for, which you're definitely going to want to go for. But there's a lot just happening on your own little board with the cards that you're putting into your compost, the cards that are on your board, like the the countless amounts of points from different areas is so interesting to me. And you don't always have to focus in on every single aspect of that. You can hone in really on one, and then other things will like naturally start to fall into place, and it feels very good in that sense. It's a tight game for sure. It's definitely on the heavier side, and it's just, if you get a chance to play this and you're like a Terraforming Mars, Ark Nova type person, I think I would classify that in this game into that space, just because of the vast amount of cards and things that can happen during the game.
I really like this game for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, the little tree things that you build up. The little cones. Reason number 2, lots of points. There's going to be hundreds of points that you'll score. And reason number 3, it's very pretty on the table. As everything begins to grow out, it's a lot of fun. The different combinations, it's a blast.
Yeah. Well, that's Earth, and we can move on to the next game.
So my number 5, which happens to be Tylor's
number 4,
is
Applejack. Because we're gonna skip my number 5. Yeah, we're skipping my number 5.
And it'll come up higher.
Yeah.
Now, Applejack is a Uwe Rosenberg game where you're placing little apple tiles and you're building orchards. Now, there's different colors of apples present, and you're essentially just trying to score the most points. As you're taking turns, your tile drafting will be dependent on the dice that moves around the entire board.
Yes, yeah.
Now, the tiles that you choose, you'll place on your board, and then as the little dice crosses various thresholds, you'll score different apples, which makes it really clever because you're essentially trying to go for different groups of apples and score the most points. And there's a really fun adjacency puzzle where whenever you connect 2 of the honeycombs
or beehives, I suppose.
Okay, because you're trying to get the most honey, because honeys help apples.
Yeah.
if you connect the 2 honeycombs, you'll get the points equal the honey to the lower value.
Yes.
So you can play some really great moves. There's a lot of varying ways to score points and different strategies to really go for. But this was a tile placement that I really, really thoroughly enjoyed and loved. And it's always one that I would love to get to the table.
Yeah, this might sound weird, but I think if Calico and Patrick had a baby, Applejack would be it. And that doesn't make any sense at all in terms of theme, like at all. But that's the game mechanics. That is what Applejack is, right?
Cats
and quilts
plus quilts
equals orchards. Yeah, who knew? But anyways, my point is that like there is that grindiness of like which tiles do I take because I need to place one onto my board, but which ones can I also afford to play because your points are also your currency, and you need to be able to like manage that because if you don't. Sometimes you won't be able to play some of the tiles that are out there, especially early on in the game. You've got to be very wary of your setup, and I think that's very, like, that would be my key point to playing this game is just be very wary at the start of the couple of rounds, just in what you choose. I will say that you can strategically plan ahead because the way that the draft board is set up, you're assigned a shape, and anytime the die gets placed onto that shape, that's when you know you have to draft. The other thing too is you're going to be gaining income for all of the apples that are on your own board at a certain point when there's a crossover. It'll tell you when. You just have to have at least 1, 2, or 3 depending on what round you're in. And I think that that's where you can regain a lot of your money and then work towards building something really fun. At the end of it, you're going to be wanting to collect those you're going to be wanting to make those set collection points via variety and chains, and I think that's very fun. There's that like lean on one particular one but have a little bit of everything, and for that reason I think, again, I'll come back to it's Calico and Patchwork having a baby, and that's what this is.
Fantastic game.
Yeah. Applejack.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about my number 4 and Tylor's number 3, which is...
Yeah, as you can see, we're getting very, very, like, there's a lot of similarities between 5 and, I'm just going to say it, 5 to 1, but they're kind of in different spots. So yeah, like Ilya said, my 3, his 4, my city, rolling build.
So we loved my city. You've heard us talk about this game if you've been following our channel probably a lot throughout the year. I think for me, the 3 big things that I will say for this game is number 1, the amount of game in this tiny little box is a ton. Number 2, the super innovative mechanic of creating polyomino tiles through rolling dice is genius.
I love it.
It's fantastic.
Love it.
And number 3, the episodic nature of this game paired with variability that you'll never expect because it's done through dice rolling makes it so much fun. So if you enjoy any of those particular things, I would highly recommend My City Roll and Build. It's a low price point, a ton of game in this one. And I really, really, really hope they do more games that use the whole dice mechanic of polyominoes, because I would buy every single one of them. I would play every single one of them. Absolutely adore My City. One of my favorite games of this year.
Yeah, I would love to see that implementation even more, and I can't stress this enough, and Ilya already has, is there's so much in this game. You get like so many different episodes. The game grows. You can like stay on one episode if you're really enjoying that play. Like you really could, and then you can play like just one chapter, or you can play 3 chapters and make it an episode. Like there's a lot of different ways you can go about playing this game to make it a whole night, to make it just part of your night, and you can take it anywhere. It's so small. The game is so much fun. If you really liked My City, like the actual Polyomino Legacy game,
big board game,
you would love this one. Yeah, I thought the dice was fantastic. This is like, it blew my mind in terms of roll and writes. So I'm very excited to see it. The roll and write implementation was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really excited to redo our top 10 roll and writes of all time because I'm very curious where this one will place.
Yes. Yeah.
For yours and mine.
Exactly. All right, well, that's My City. We can go on to your number 3 and my number 5.
Crossovers. And that is
Scholars. You're supposed to help me.
Of the South Tigers. I was just in awe of how good this game is.
Yes, okay.
So, this has been such an exciting top 10 list because these 10 games are genuinely so good.
So good.
I feel like this has been such a good year for gaming, but let's dive into this one. This is likely the most complex game out of all the ones we've mentioned.
Yeah, I would say on my top 10 for sure.
Maybe honorable mentions could come into play.
Yeah.
But it's a complex game where what you're trying to do is a lot of things.
A lot of things.
You'll be translating scrolls, you'll be building up knowledge, you'll be recruiting translators, and you'll be all doing this and traveling through dice placement and color theory.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 4 different areas on the map that you can go on, and each of them either takes the value of the dice or the color or both.
Yeah.
And how you place your dice will affect what you're going to do in the game. And then it goes back into that classic Garfield game of resource management, optimization, multiple ways to score points, and heavy strategy to try to get to that number 1 place.
Yes. Yeah.
This game is absolutely gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. I love the use of color theory. It felt so unique and fresh, but also in an approachable way because it wasn't limiting. It's still colorblind friendly as well.
It is, yeah.
Which is really great to see. And this may be one of my favorite Garfield games.
Yeah, this is my number 5, and I was very surprised that it was my number 5.
Yeah, me too, actually.
I thought for sure this one would take like 1, if I'm totally honest. But then I like reflected, and obviously it still made it into the top 10, but it's a 5. I will say, fun little flex. This game was so much fun to take photos of, as most of the Garfield games are. But yeah, it's just so colorful. It's so vibrant. The way that it works to when you are even like resting. For those of you who are familiar with the Wayfarers of the game of the South, it's the same thing where you're resting and then you get to like basically clean up. But even that decision of how you place those cards on your board so that you can walk through your rest action, so interesting because you have to go left to right. And some of those things you can combo off of, like if you place them right. And I think like some of those things you definitely learn how to do as you play through the game, but early on you're just like, oh, I'll just place this, and it really is a game of discovery. It's a game of like intricate decisions, and I think that it just gets better and better the more you play it. So like, yeah, I can't really say much more about this game besides the fact that I love it. And yeah, I am surprised that it is at 5, but all these other games that we've been talking about have just been like so good. So good. Yeah.
But having said that, I'm so excited for the conclusion of the trilogy with Inventors, as we will have the opportunity to play that within a month or so, which is very exciting.
Yeah, very, very excited. But on to the next one. That is Scholars.
Fun little fact. My number 1 is Tyler's number 2. And his number 1 is my number 2. We did crisscross. Yeah. But other fun fact, we had no crossovers that were exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because usually we have at least 1 or 2.
Yeah. There were like games, similar games, but I was actually, I mean, again, we've said this before, but the number of games that we had to choose from, it was very, very cool to see what the similar games were. And then also the fact that like each of us had different games on our lists that were not mentioned by the other.
It's funny because we also had the same 5 bottom games.
5 bottom games.
The ones at the very bottom of the list.
Yeah. But that's a giant list. And I think that maybe that list was a little, at least at the bottom, it was much harder for me to just be like, oh, I'll just put it here. Because like I think at a certain point it was just like, oh, they're all just like, it's like a list. And then there's a bunch of other games kind of thing. You know what I mean? So like any of them could have gone anywhere at that point.
My bottom 5 were my bottom 5.
Oh.
Anyway, my number 1 game, the best game of 2023 for me, and number 2 for Tyler, is
Fit to Print.
So this was so difficult. And what was interesting is initially, I didn't think this one would be even in the top 3. But over reflection, pondering, writing notes and trying to remember and reminisce over our gameplay experience, this feels correct.
It does feel correct.
So the reason it is my number one is because it is a game that I truly believe we'll be playing every year. We'll be playing multiple times. We'll be showing different people. Here's 3 things I love about this game. Number one, once everyone knows how to play, this is a game you can play in 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. But it feels like a game. That's like an hour strategy game, which I love. Number 2, although it has a real-time component to it, it has never felt wrong or stressful. If anything, it felt very fun and thematic to putting a newspaper together. Number 3, the presentation and the artwork of this game, the way the game really comes together and the experience playing this game has truly been unrivaled for me for 2023. Yeah. We've shown this game to so many different people, and every single gameplay experience was so much fun. The whole fact that you can also play with up to 6 players, especially if you have a little circular table, it is a joy.
Yeah.
It's a joy to see. It's a joy to experience the different varying strategies that you can take. I adore this game. I hope more people play it. Flat Out Games, Peter McPherson, thank you so much for this wonderful experience. Eno2 as well. Lovely fit to print.
Yeah, this game is so much fun. I will say that there are cards in this game that make it harder and make it more difficult, make it more fun in some aspects. We rarely play with them, and we have so much fun just playing what it is at its base. Mm-hmm. I think adding those like day cards where it adds like different strategy conditions to it, amazing. But you do not need them, and they're just like an extra touch to this game that makes the game even more replayable than it already is. That 4-minute, you can do it 5-minute. I think you can even do it at 3-minute rounds. But that's a lot of time. It doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it is a lot of... Okay, 3 minutes is a little tough. 3 minutes is a little tough, but it's fun. Doable. It doesn't feel like super like negatively stressful. It's stressful, but in a fun way. And I think that it's done a really good job at capturing what I think a real-time game should be. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they did a fantastic job on this. I can't speak more highly of it. I don't think there's anything else I can say about this game besides I love it. If you haven't tried it, please do.
And you get to choose the name of your newspaper.
Yes.
My favorite's the Prairie Courier because it has a little B on it.
I like the Evening Hoot. Yeah. Anyways, that's Fit to Print. Ilya's 1, my 2. Now on to my number 1 and Ilya's number 2, and that is Forest Shuffle.
Ta-da!
Holy moly.
Holy moly.
Holy moly is all I can say with this game. I have had so much fun playing with this card game that you basically are just building your little ecosystem on. There's so many different ways to score so many points, and essentially you're just drawing or playing cards. Mm-hmm. It's that neat little aspect of this game where you are paying a certain number of cards from your hand to be able to play the card that you want to play, which makes this game a very like tight decision making because you might not want to give up certain cards that other people are going for. Mm-hmm. This is all open information, and honestly the variety of different strategies that you can kind of lean into are definitely there. There are some very strong strategies in my opinion that objectively that you can accomplish by grabbing them, but if everybody at the table is grabbing them, it's not going to work.
And that strategy is elves, not elves.
Elves. The elves.
I was trying to do elks and wolves and it became elves.
It's actually deer.
Wolves and
deer. And then I think the reptiles are really strong too. But anyways, I think that I've played so much of this game. I absolutely love it. I get excited to show the game to everybody. My favorite part about showing this game to everybody is that self-discovery of the game. I think it's so interesting to be able to just say like, this is how it works, this is how it functions, this is what you need to do, but read the cards, figure out a little strategy for yourself. Like I'll maybe provide a little bit of a tip here and there, but like read the cards, decide for yourself, like, do you think it's gonna work? And then like play it, see how it works. The game runs like, it's not a fast game, which I find very interesting. It is very strategic and very long, but the turns are extremely fast because you either are playing cards or taking cards, and that's it. It doesn't take very long, so you always feel engaged in the game. And then again, like I said, is that discovery of just like looking at your hand and saying, oh, these are ones that I should probably play, or this goes with this. How do I make it happen? It's very interesting to see everybody kind of like figure it out on their own, but then come back to it and be like, yeah, let's play it again.
There's 4 reasons I really like this game. Tyler's covered 2 of them, so I'll quickly go through them. One is the self-discovery aspect. It's so interesting to see players look at their cards and then begin to see, oh, if I go for a bunch of these trees, wait, should I be going for a bunch of these trees? Tyler only has 1 tree with a bunch of things on it. And all of a sudden you're building a forest while everybody else is really focusing on one tree.
Yeah.
So that's one. Number 2, the community aspect of this game. Although you're playing your own different game, I feel like the table conversations we've had in this game are always such a delight. Because one player will be saying, I remember my mom was like, where's a squeaker? Why don't I have a squeaker? Do you have a squeaker? I want the squeaker.
And then your sister's like,
and my sister has 3 squeakers in her hand trying to like decide when to take them. But then you also have that whole opportunity of like, there's cards in the middle of the table. I see what Tyler's going for. I probably should take away the things that he needs. It sucks for me because it almost like they are potentially cards that I can use to pay for other things. But that dynamic tension of the game is really, really interesting. The third point is the decision making is so grueling sometimes because you, especially early on in the game where you want to play everything, you're like, all these cards are fantastic. How could I possibly get rid of any of them?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to like let go of some of the cards, and beginning to be comfortable with that is really interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, the ease of introducing this game to everybody. Like Tyler said, you play a card or you draw 2 cards. The simplicity in that rule set, but the complexity in the strategy and decision making in this game, I want to see more games that utilize kind of this mechanic with different themes, with more cards. I absolutely love Forest Shuffle. It's definitely one of my favorite games in general of all time.
Yeah, this is a fantastic game. It's my #1 game for a reason. I think the other thing that we did not even like breeze on or like begin to talk about is that extra level that then becomes the bonuses of the cards. If you can strategically discard the right colors, or the right symbols, however you want to say it, it adds another layer to the game that makes it so much more interesting because now you can play cards for free. You get another turn. You get to draw extra cards. There's just a bunch of different things that are starting to happen as you play through this game. I have not got bored of this game.
And what makes it even better, as a humble brag, is the instructional video for this game is our most viewed video as of now.
Oh, yes.
On our channel, which is great.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so that's also fun. So, yeah.
If you want to learn more about this game, then definitely check it out. We, like Ilya said, we have a how to play on it. If you want to learn how to play it, go on over and check it out. This has been a fantastic game. I think our top 10 list has been absolutely phenomenal. Again, hard to make, but there's been so many good games. And I will add this for anybody who is watching this and has gotten this far. Thank you for getting this far, first of all. That's amazing. And if you'd like to see maybe a particular list of games from this 130 plus games that we've played from just 2023, if there are games that you want us to like hone in on or talk about a bit more, let us know in the comments below, because we'll happily and probably difficultly try and figure out a list of those games for you and talk about them on a separate video.
Or just general. It doesn't have to be 2023.
If
there's a particular top 10 that you want to see from us, we take a lot of pride in our research and the amount of time we invest into our top 10 list, because we really want to understand a category, understand the year, really get to know it, so we'll do that quality good job.
And of course, let us know down in the comments below what your favorite game from 2023 has been. There's, like we said, been so much out there, and we're always interested to hear what your thoughts are on our list, on your own games that you've been enjoying. Just plug them down in the comments below.
And if you want to support us further, feel free to check out our Patreon. We have videos with a little bit more behind the scenes, potentially more lists of extended lists. Yeah. Exactly, that's the word I was looking for. And we have a lovely Discord where we get to know each of you. We get to play some games together on BGA. We get to talk about various things, board games and not. Tyler's been on a crocheting run, so if you want to join that, there's that as well.
It's a side act. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you're new here, because we make weekly board game content like this. moving into 2024, we're really excited to see what happens. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you
in the next video, which is a top 10 new to us games that we played in 2023.
All right, bye.